Hey, welcome to the Malm podcast. I am Joel, here with Dad.
And I'm Rick, and we're glad you're here today, too. What's up?
The marathon ends today.
We have reached the pinnacle.
We are at the end of Hiking the Clouds.
Yes.
The book I've been working on, we've been going through it. Dad got an advanced reader copy, and I like to get his feedback. And it's a book based on 2 Peter, where he says kind of what a mature faith looks like. Add to your faith virtue, add to your virtue knowledge, self-control, endurance, then godliness, then brotherly affection, and then finally the pinnacle, he says agape.
Which is not surprising.
Yes, agape is the Greek word for a perfect love. It's the unconditional love. But he also says, he's like, all these have to be present. If you have all these present, you'll be. It's a mind-blowing statement.
Yeah, because it starts off by saying, add to your faith.
Yeah.
So you lay the foundation and then you add upon those.
So it's a progression. And we've talked about how every one of these you ascend and include, which I got some hate about that commentary. Somebody's like, remove that line, but I like it.
What?
Ascend and include. You ascend to new heights of awareness and faith. And then you include every previous stage. If you don't include it, or you resent it, or you despise it where you came from, you'll never truly be able to incorporate it into what you need to walk in agape.
Was the hate about ascending or about including? You want to leave the others
She
behind?
just said, she's like, oh, get rid of that line. I hate it. Ascend and include. I'm like, well, I like it. I'm leaving it in there.
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah. Interesting thing about writing books, they always tell you, just remember, you're not your audience.
Well, that's true.
They say that about 80% of the world is the S sensing on the Myers-Briggs, and only about, I think it's about 20, is that right? Are intuitives, and intuitives write books, S's tend to read them.
Okay.
So they're like, you intuitives that write the books, you got to remember it's got to be written in something, an S, which is why I like giving my books to you. You're an S. You take things as they are.
We don't worry about pleasing the crowd. We're writing the books for ourselves. We need to be expressed. We have something worthwhile.
Which is in a very ironic way, odd way, paradoxical way, is what love is.
Say what?
Is when you don't need someone's approval.
There you go. Okay. We talked about that, I think, in the last podcast.
If that really upsets you, listen to the last episode. So,
because that will really upset you if that statement did. Okay.
Yeah. So we're at agape. I love this quote I found of Soren Kierkegaard, one of my favorite existential philosophers. Most existential philosophers are actually kind of whack. Nietzsche, those guys, Heidegger. But anyway, when one has once fully entered the realm of love, the world, no matter how imperfect, becomes rich and beautiful. It consists solely of opportunities for love.
Surprisingly, I liked that one too.
What'd you like about it?
The opportunities for love. I thought that's a good way of putting it. We need to look for opportunities to love. And I don't know about all the rest of it, ascending to the world, or I don't know what all that means. But I like the fact
fully entered the realm of love.
Yeah, I don't know what that means really.
Yeah, all right.
But I like the opportunities for love. I could figure out the last 3 words of that quote.
Well, I took it as agape, and it fits good at the top of the chapter. So there it is. Yeah.
Okay. So you look for opportunities to love, and of course there's all kinds of opportunities to love the lovely, but that doesn't count for anything in the kingdom.
Yes.
And so we want to. So
what stood out to you?
Well, let's see here. Okay. Like on page 2, or I don't know where it is here, but
got some good highlights there. Yeah. Is it the right things? Did you highlight the right things?
I highlighted the important things.
Those are the wrong things you highlighted. No, I'm just kidding.
We see the value of churches and leaders who are focused on a particular stage of journey. And okay, what you were talking about there is the fact that, okay, all of these things are stages in our journey. And some churches and some leaders get stuck at one of those stages.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Okay.
I don't think they get stuck. Well, I think they have a specific calling to minister in that area. Now, that doesn't allow them to abdicate the responsibility to go further in their walk of faith. But I think that there's certain churches that have a certain calling.
That's a better way of putting it. Yeah, that's really true.
I hope I clearly communicated that in there. The newer version may have that more clearly.
It may. I don't think there was any judgment in this anyway. It says we see the value of those. But that rang so true to me because I grew up in a church that was the subtitle of the church was the Great Evangelistic Center of the Quad Cities. I grew up in a
So they're going to be focused on awakening people to faith.
Evangelism. And that's what, man, this guy was an evangelist. We had, during the service, the lights would dim and the pulpit would rise from the platform. So as the choir moved off, I mean, this is in the 60s and 70s.
So you went to a cool church before cool churches were cool.
Man, yeah, they had lights, the whole bit, before it was really cool. The point is, I had a friend of mine who went to church. He went there a lot. I just went to Sunday school. We were a weird family. We went to Sunday school, then we bugged out and went home because Sunday school is their evangelistic outreach. That's what they really pushed. So we went to Sunday school. He was there all the time for all services. And I ran into him years later, and he was really upset at that church. And I said, what's the matter, man? What are you so upset about? He says, I went there all my life, and then I ran into this other church, and they started giving me these deeper truths, and I realized my whole life I had just lived at this shallow level. And I said, well, dude, they told you right up front they were an evangelistic center. What did you miss about that?
Yeah.
And he was just frustrated, but that was their call, and they did a great job of it.
And I think that's this flawed idea that the church, again, all right, I'm going to step on toes here, but I hear these pastors that are like, well, our church teaches the whole counsel of God. We are there for every stage in the journey. And I'm like, bro, let's be honest. You can't even figure out your wife.
Yeah.
How are you going to preach the whole counsel of God? Now what I think what they're saying is we want to make sure we cover all of the different angles in the word, but I don't think every church can do that.
No. And the point is, you got to call, this pastor was not a pastor.
He was an evangelist.
He was called a pastor, but he was an evangelist.
Yeah. And you've got
Nothing
the fivefold calling gifts that are is that Ephesians? I think it is.
Ephesians 4.
Yeah. Ephesians 4. Right. So there's specific churches that are focused on teaching. There's specific churches that are focused on evangelism.
Yeah.
And each of those line up with one of these stages. Yeah. Again, I think about a Joel Osteen. He is an awakening to faith.
Yeah.
He would never declare to be a theologian. He doesn't even declare it, right? And people are like, well, this guy's no theologian. I'm like, I don't think Joel Osteen would ever say he's a theologian.
Doesn't care.
Yeah, he's like, I want to lead people to the love of Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Then you've got the virtue churches. These churches just hardcore. These are great churches for people that are trying to pull their life together after having had no boundaries, having nothing, then you have the knowledge churches, which a lot of those. You have, God bless John MacArthur. May he rest in peace. He was incredibly important in the knowledge phase for me, understanding the scripture. Keith Lamb, another guy, which is amazing for me. They were a stage though, right?
Yeah.
And then
and Keith used to say, he used to quote this proverb, he says about a bird that strays from its nest. He says, I know, this is what I do. I'm a teacher. He said, that's what I am. That's who I do. I'm not an evangelist. I can't be. This is what God's called me to be. And so it was like going to seminary every Sunday, sitting in his class.
And I don't think anybody would ever think that Keith Lamb didn't do what he was put on earth to do. The guy was so gifted at what he did. But to say, well, why didn't you lead people into more of an inner soul healing journey? Yeah. That wasn't his thing.
Well, why didn't you evangelize more people?
Yeah.
It's like, because we can always find something to be guilty about.
Yeah.
He was a great teacher. That's what he did. There's somebody else, a great evangelist. That's what he did.
Yep. And there's certain churches, and I mean, this is, I feel like my home waypoint is the self-control one. Not because I have it, but because I've struggled with it so much. So what are you, if you really want to teach something, or if you really want to learn something, have to teach it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I kind of always default back to that. I joke at the start of the book that's the longest chapter in the book is the one on self-control. It's because the one I hang out there most.
Personal experience.
Yeah, and so every church, I believe, has, and there's some churches that are focused on that dark night of the soul, the endurance phase. And then I think there's some that are focused on godliness. But
stop for a second there. I think it's so important because it's so easy to be critical of a church because of that, because that's not what you need right now. Mm-hmm. Well, like my friend, well, I don't need evangelism right now. I've been saved for 25, 40 years,
Yes.
And I think you get in trouble with the Lord when you go criticizing like that.
That's good to know, because there are I got a lot of hate on an Instagram video of this podcast a few weeks ago where I said about my friend who stepped away because she needed a different kind of Bible teaching. And they're like, well, people are like, this guy makes me sick. He thinks that's a good thing. And I'm like, bro. And so you're saying those people displease the Lord. I'm glad to hear that. You hear that, folks?
Well, I mean, really, because we are being critical of something that isn't for us right now.
Who are you to judge another man's servant?
Yeah,
talks
exactly.
about. Yeah, you don't know where they are in their growth when they walk with God, and for you, and that's the curse of knowledge. when you've got knowledge, you forget what it's like to not have it.
Yeah. So you just got your PhD and you're really critical of that nursery school across the street that all they're doing is teaching those kids how to count and how to color and do that sort of stuff.
Why are they teaching them quantum physics?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. It's like, what's wrong with those people? Well, there are some people who aren't as smart and wise and intellectual and developed as you.
Yeah.
Who need that.
Well, and again, that's the challenge. This is the crazy thing. We talked about this a while back, the Dunning-Kruger effect. Those who know the least seem to be the most judgmental and certain of those who they like of what they think they know. And so what you find is people early in this virtue and knowledge, they become little demons sometimes with other people that are and but here's the reality of it. Some of the questions that we ask about God in the endurance, others in the later stages, they can sound offensive, they can sound on bordering on heresy, and that's where I think those people that are, it's the Dunning-Kruger effect. Those who know the least think they know the most.
Yeah.
And I think agape, a true sign of agape is humility, recognizing I really don't know the first thing about God. He is a mystery, but he's a mystery not because he's not knowable. It's because he's infinitely knowable. And what you think you know about God, there's way more to know about God. And thank God there is, because if you knew everything there needs to know about God, we're screwed because God's way bigger than your little brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me dumb what you just said down a little bit because I had to stop and think
Dumb
about
it
it.
Down?
Yeah,
what?
yeah, just the idea. The idea. He's infinitely knowable. Isn't that what you said? Is that how you phrased it?
There's infinite levels of knowing.
Yeah.
Like you will never plumb the depths of what God is. That's why trying to explain him is, well, they say it's trying to F the ineffable.
Oh,
That's right.
I think, and that's where it's like, what you were saying is when you feel like you got the answers, you know you aren't very far along on the walk. Because when you get to a certain point, you realize, well, like the book, we're hiking in the clouds. When you can see clearly and when you got it all figured out, you know you're just starting the journey. Because when you get to the point that you haven't got it all figured out, then all of a sudden you're beginning to make some progress. And it's like, and a lot of times those questions, I think that's where you go. Some of those questions that you'll ask when you're in the clouds are questions that you thought you had the answer to beforehand. When you can see clearly. But now you realize, oh, okay, that was a true answer, but that wasn't the whole answer.
Yes. The greatest challenges in life are not yes and no. They're yes and also.
Like, can I throw out a little situation to rattle some people's cages?
Let's hear it.
Okay. So here's one. What actually happened when Jesus died on the cross? What did he actually do for us? Well, we owed a debt we could not pay. He paid a debt he did not owe. So he paid the debt for our sin. Whoa, okay. I agree with that.
Wait, but that gets into that big theological conundrum of substitutionary atonement versus,
Did he pay the debt? If he did, then God didn't forgive us. The debt was paid. You don't have to forgive a debt that's been paid. So it's not this or this. It's that. Oh, there's something else too. He paid a ransom for us. The Bible talks about all of these. But the point is, when you think you got it all cut and dried and I got it figured out, you're still at the starting gate. You don't even know some of the questions yet, let alone the answers.
And then the problem with that is much knowledge puffeth up, as Paul says. Much knowledge puffs up. And
unless you've added that knowledge to virtue.
Well, and that's why your knowledge, apart from self-awareness, again, it goes back to you literally have to have every one of these stages.
Yeah. And those stages, again, are add to your faith.
Virtue.
To your virtue.
Knowledge.
You have to have virtue and faith first.
Yep. And then self-control. And you can only love from a pure place when you've been stripped of all of the illusions, the
delusions,
the thinking that you can control God, which really, I mean, I've realized recently I had in my mind that what I had with God was a deal.
Yeah.
We're so transactional. It's like God, it's Jacob in the start of his journey.
Yeah.
God comes to him and initiates the covenant. And then he's like, I'm going to take care of you, Jacob. And Jacob's like, cool. Okay, look, you take care of me. I'll do what you say. I'll follow you. I'll even tithe. And then it changes though. In the second half of faith, you all of a sudden realize, I was thinking I could control God if I did the right dance and, it's kind of a paganistic idea that God's waiting up there to be appeased with the right actions and the right sacrifices. and which there's an element to that. Again, it's yes and also. There's some truth to the benefits for us from right sacrifices, but the sacrifice was already made. That's why he gave his own son. And that's what this whole book is about, is this whole book is coming to awareness, which is what faith is, of what's already real. The price is paid in Christ. We are the righteousness of God in Christ. You have everything you need right now for life and godliness. But it's a slow unlearning, stripping away of everything, of all of the things that are holding us back from giving love and then also from receiving love. And that's how we become this conduit of God's love flowing through us. It's literally, I use this example of divine plumbing, right? It's clearing out anything that's keeping us from being a pure conduit of God's love flowing through us. And that's how we bless others. And that's how we get the blessing ourselves when that love flows through us.
Yeah. Well, do you have time for me to challenge you on something in here?
Let's hear it.
Okay. On whatever page this is, it says, love rejoices with the truth. Agape and truth walk hand in hand. It doesn't avoid hard conversations or enable deception. Now, I don't disagree with that. In fact, I'm more and more learning that myself. I guess I'm kind of coming to that point myself. However, it also doesn't delight in contention or dissension or just conflict for the sake of conflict. Agape does not.
I agree with that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I knew you would, but I just, coming from your perspective where you tend to, just grab the bull by the horns versus my perspective where it's like, you don't want to grab every bull. You're going to get pretty bloody. Some bulls can just, it's like running the bulls.
Yeah. And what was the original sin of Adam? Passivity.
We'll leave it at that.
Thanks for listening. Please consider sharing this with your friends on the platform of your choice. For more from Joel Malm, visit joelmalm.com. For more from Rick Malm, visit rickmalm.com. Our podcast music was produced by Alex Burleson.